vehicle in the back quarter of it and hit it with such force that you spin it out, and then obviously you disengage for the two vehicles. But a pit maneuver is very aggressive, and they're being very aggressive in this pursuit.
Well, and another thing that you're talking about is this controlled traffic accident. You can't dismiss the danger it gives to the officer, because you can notice when he hits, his vehicle loses control a little bit. So now we're underneath the park there. So we're going to see if they come out the other side. They do. So the chase continues, and it looks like they're at the very end of the 10 freeway. So there's really nowhere to go. He was westbound, and so at some point it's going to end there in Santa Monica. He's going to be back on surface streets. Now, once this person gets on surface streets, and you see the arm hanging out the window, just very casually going about a drive, so we can see there. I'm trying to see if there's a second person in that vehicle in the passenger side, and it is possible there is, but I'm not at this point positive. The back windows seem to be tinted, so you can't really tell what's in there. Now we've got a U-turn, and it looks like we are on, I'm assuming that is southbound PCH there. So off the freeway. Now we've got a stopped vehicle, and I don't know if he was stopping to try to make the police officer run into him. Does seem as if it was that. So again, this pickup driver now moving along here, and we are in Eyewitness News at 11:30. You're watching Eyewitness News at 11:30. We are in breaking news with a stolen pickup truck. Police are in pursuit. I'm Philip Palmer, and we are continuing to see this. But Bruce Thomas is joining us. And Bruce, I mean, again, there are so many things we don't know that officers are going to know in a chase like this. We've not seen excessive speed, but we have seen some reckless driving on the part of this person, which is putting the community at risk. But the part we don't know is one of those things that you were saying about, we don't know why they are so aggressively trying to pit this guy and get him off the road. But now he's headed on a U-turn and just going right back in the direction that he came.
Yeah, one of the things we saw last week in the pursuit that ended in Santa Monica is the sheer volume of pedestrians, tourists, people out and about. Were coming up to lunchtime. So even though his driving may not be that, dangerous, he is not following the rules of the road and endangering a lot of people's lives.
And so again, now this is another moment of driving. So very quickly went across several lanes of traffic to possibly, maybe it's you don't want to get in his brain, but he's clearly trying to elude police. But going across the lanes of traffic, he could be under the influence as well. We've watched him just with his hands out the window, gesturing at authorities. So again, we are now on some surface streets, and he's running up into some traffic issues. So he's going through an intersection. We've watched him go against the light and against traffic, now putting the foot on it, and he's getting around some traffic. Again, more dangerous driving here with LAPD right behind him, picking up speed. We have that speed monitor says about 100, but I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but it certainly could be. But sometimes that's a little bit off given the helicopter. But we are back on the freeway. This would be 10 East, and this is where we picked it up earlier on, was when he was on the freeway and then drove all the way to Santa Monica and got off the freeway. So now you're starting to see some aggressive driving. And Bruce, again, now we're on the freeway. Does CHP some point get involved, or are they likely already monitoring this?
Yeah, they're already monitoring it through a mutual aid. However, in this case, because they're on the freeway, I would think LAPD is going to hand it off to CHP as they have better resources to move as the pursuit moves along the 10 eastbound, transitioning different patrol stations.
So now we're looking at some speeds that are likely more accurate. And this person's around 100 miles an hour, very close, splitting the lanes, going through traffic, which is light, which allows him greater speed. But now we've exited the freeway on a frontage road, and we're going to see what happens here is he has to slow down very quickly. And now he is going to exit the freeway and rolling through and cutting off a couple of people in traffic. But again, now you're back into Pico Boulevard, 33rd Street. This is the Pico District here. And again, this is kind of what Bruce was talking about a moment ago. It's summer. People are going to be out and about. You're going to have tourists around. And this person at lunchtime, driving very aggressively through downtown streets or streets here in the Pico District, trying to just get away from authorities in what has been reported as a stolen vehicle. A couple of pit maneuvers we've watched. And Bruce, what were you going to add just now?
I was just going to add that, the speeds they pick up on the freeway. However, you're not going to see a pit maneuver on the freeway because of the speeds. The other thing which presents a problem is the sheer weight and size of this vehicle. It's a pickup truck with a dual cab, so there's some weight to it, and it probably outweighs the police cars.
Well, and this is not going to be the typical pickup truck in what you're talking about with the extended cab there. There is more weight and it's further back. You might find a lot of times with a pickup truck, there's nothing in the rear end and it's very light and it might be very easy to pit. But as you pointed out, this is going to be a bigger, heavier truck with weight distributed much more differently. And we don't necessarily know if there's something in the back because of the cover there. So when it comes to these pit maneuvers and maybe why they're not effective right now, the slow speed mattered, the direction of the pickup truck just continuing to go straight mattered, and as you mentioned, Bruce, just the bulk of the vehicle. But this has been kind of the behavior, slowing down, getting a lay of the land, and then just moving on through. So it's not been aggressively going through intersections, but it's certainly been dangerous driving going through these intersections. And again, more gesturing as we kind of take a look at what this person is doing. And again, this has been wanted for a stolen vehicle, stolen truck pursuit. Now he's just waving at people. And that is just, Bruce, sometimes when you have one of these chases, when the person just is so casual in their demeanor, you kind of just have to settle in and expect this chase to continue for a while because they're not necessarily driving recklessly, but certainly dangerously.
Yeah, correct. The thing about when they're on the surface streets and you have a city agency or the county sheriff's pursuing them, they don't swap out vehicles like CHP does. And what I mean is the first vehicle is in the pursuit, stays there for a while. The second vehicle calls the pursuit to take the pressure off the first vehicle, and then they swap out. So the first vehicle may become the third or fourth, and they just move up the conga line. And that's just to keep the officers who are very focused and hyper alert on this, to give them a little bit of a break.
You would think that is just incredibly taxing. It is not that for this driver. He is not taxed at all in his efforts. But yeah, you're right. When you're following somebody like this and multiple efforts at pit maneuvers, that can be stressful. But this person seems to almost be dancing in the driver's seat, trying to get a better look at him as we can. We don't know if there's more than one person in this vehicle, and we are looking at our map. Sky Map 7 says this is Pico and 11th in the Pico District, but he is basically pulling serpentine moves many times, just weaving around, and it's almost as if there's a measure of taunting going on here from this suspect to officers. But Bruce, they just have to continue to do. They can't be bothered by that. They're just trying to find an opportunity to spin this out and be done with it.
Yeah, that's correct. They're looking for an opportunity where they can do that. But we've seen the driver, he's got his hands out of the window. He's almost like dancing in the seat. Like you said, the word taunting. He's almost like, I'm doing this and I'm having fun. And, that's another thing, too, which really gets the ire of not only the police that are chasing, but also citizens and pedestrians and other drivers who are caught up in this.
And Bruce, as we watch this, it's sometimes, clearly we're watching silent video. We can't hear what's going on, but we have lights and sirens on the ground, right? So it'll in this circumstance for commuters in this area, they are likely aware as this pursuit approaches, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. With the lights and siren, you're not necessarily going to hear the siren right away, but you will see the lights when they're driving code 3, meaning the officers are driving code 3. So that alerts the pedestrians, the other drivers, and also having the helicopter up top, whether it be media and or police, is another tool to signify to people that, hey, there's something going on. You need to kind of pay attention to the road. Well,
you saw that one truck move out of the way just now because the pickup truck driver drove into oncoming traffic to avoid an intersection where people were waiting at a light and then turned in front of others. So it sounds as if we have a spike strip that has been put out in front. This person has been kind of in the same general area, which has given officers a chance to get in front. But Bruce, sometimes we've watched this person slow down. So it is the possibility that they too are on the lookout, knowing that officers might be ready to throw a spike strip. So we're going to be looking for that. How will we be able to identify? Would the officer try to hide the vehicle and then throw that out, or would they be right by their vehicle when they just get ready to throw out a spike strip?
Yeah, ideally, the officer has to, he would use some sort of concealment, maybe hide by their vehicle, hide in a shrubbery area, and then deploy the spike strip by throwing it out into the street. But the other thing, too, about deploying the spike strip is it's inherently dangerous for the officer, too, because the suspect may see it coming and then may swerve and or do some other maneuvers, which are just putting, lives in danger.
Now we see an aggressive move there, putting the gas on and accelerating away from the officers there for a moment. Not sure if that is what he was trying to avoid just now. Not really sure. But you're really seeing a lot of people concede the right-of-way to this person because, with lights and siren, you are at an opportunity where at least people are aware of what's going on, because we saw it with pedestrians walking through the crosswalk just a moment ago. You saw them kind of hustle their way across, because this is pretty easy to see if you hear it around the block or something. It's not as if these sirens are quiet. So you start looking around, and in many cases, it does seem like people are not trying. Here's an intersection where he went right through against the light clearly. You saw that other pickup truck coming into the intersection stop. So that's the advantage of lights and sirens. But here we've got a really aggressive speed now in the turn lane, going through these and round these vehicles up towards 50 to 60 miles an hour as he's trying to get away. We're not certain why all of a sudden this person has decided to accelerate. Now we're kind of going into the turn lane through an intersection, upwards of 60 to 70 miles an hour in traffic. And so we're going to see what happens here as he approaches some congestion. You saw the LAPD helicopter go in through our camera there. So they're much lower than our helicopter, and they're able to really follow this person. But this guy has started to show some more aggressive moves and just speeding up. That's the thing about that median in the middle. We saw him bounce up on that at one point earlier, but he doesn't have the chance to get into oncoming traffic in this particular part. It looks like Ocean Park Boulevard. And so he's pretty much on these two lanes and can't go over. And you kind of like that, right, Bruce? Or what is the thought when you get in a place like here where his options are limited?
Yeah,
now look, sorry to interrupt, Bruce. He goes across and pulls a U-turn. So there goes for that as far as being limited on where he goes.
Yeah, but to your point, having a medium like that is a good thing for in a pursuit, because he can't cross over. And however, in this case, he just did.
And so now we have turned around. They were approaching Centinela, as I'm been given a note, but this looks like going back on Ocean Park Boulevard, and just in a position where he's just not conceding anything. And at some point, we haven't really seen another opportunity for LAP to give a pit maneuver. Is that one of those things after those first couple, Bruce, where they kind of get an idea as far as the weight of the vehicle? Is that almost like we're testing this thing on, or testing this vehicle and see what they can do?
Yeah, it's a heavier vehicle. It's not a small pickup truck. It's got some weight to it. And like you said earlier, we don't know what's in the back. Is it, tools, debris, construction equipment? We just don't know. But it's also a little higher lifted vehicle. So, in order to get into it, you ideally want to hit the fender. But in this case, as you can see when Air 7 HD pulled in, they've done some damage to the rear of the vehicle, but just not enough to slow it down. And the driver is definitely taunting the chasing officers.
Okay, now we're at a situation that is dangerous for the officers, of course, because this guy has shown the willingness to try and stop and make them run into him. He has stopped. Officers are out, guns drawn, protected by the car doors, but not really if he decides to back up. So this is one of those moments where it's very dangerous for the officers. Don't know. We really can't see from Air 7 what's in front. We don't know if there is something in front of him that has caused him to stop at this point. It does look as if there's nothing really in the way of traffic to have stopped him from going forward. Don't know if he's trying to make any kind of interaction with officers, but looks like there is less than lethal weapons as well as lethal potential weapons. So now he's going to start pulling forward again. And here we go. We do know that that doesn't mean that they can't continue to follow him because helicopters above him. They know where he is. He's in this part of town it's pretty congested. So when I say congested, the streets are busy. So it's not as if he's going to be able to just get away in some neighborhood. But Bruce, that moment there just makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up when he stops like that, because he's shown no tendency to give up. And so for officers to be exposed out of the vehicle, that's somewhat worrisome, I would assume.
Yeah, he's not complying with any of the officers' requests. They're on the loudspeaker asking him to turn the motor off, put your hands out of the window. In this case, he's rolled the window back up. But he's not complying, and he's stopping, allowing the officers to get right up on him. They get out to conduct their felony stop, and then just as they're in position to do so, he takes off again at a high rate of speed. So he's totally taunting the officers.
Well, and it looked almost as if he was talking to someone in what looked to be like a garbage truck. He stopped right beside him. I'm not sure if he had rolled his window down at that point, but now you're starting to put other people at risk. They're in danger, and they don't even realize it, possibly, when this guy just stops and wants to engage with a bystander. But here we are again. This car, just before 11:30 is when we picked this up. This was a stolen truck pursuit, mostly on the west side of town. And it does appear for now that we've seen it's as if this driver is in this vehicle alone. We've seen several pit maneuver opportunities that they have tried. We're unable to get this vehicle to lose control, but you'll see some damage in the back. That is from the officers who had tried the pit maneuver, and you'll see a couple of them here on your right, because on your right is video. On your left, we're still trying to get our signal back there for a second, trying to get our camera back on top of this chase. But you see on the right the various times that LAPD has tried to stop this. Now, we were on the freeway at a time. We did not see CHP officers in this. And I say LAPD, here we might have another pit maneuver, and there is a much more, that was almost effective. But you see, now you've gotten some real damage to the back end of the vehicle, but nothing really yet that would cause him to lose any kind of control of the vehicle. The damage has been to the rear end and nothing to the axle, nothing to the wheels. They had talked about possibly putting spike strips down. We have not seen that opportunity yet. Even if it happens, it would be very slow in the sense that the tires don't immediately explode. It is a very slow leak of the air if he hits that spike strip. Sometimes it's only one vehicle or one tire, and sometimes he will drive that vehicle all the way down to where it is just right on the rims, and then of course you've got fire risk. So now we see him driving into oncoming traffic again, into the left turn lane. Whereas this is a 3-lane road. He's using that center lane as an opportunity to get around. So apparently, I'm getting word that he somehow was able to go around the spike strips, Bruce. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with this person slowing down. He may see things coming, but he's driving in the bike lane and in the turn lane, and now looks to be turning right if this in Lincoln Boulevard. So now it does look like he is on Lincoln Boulevard, Bruce, and again, just continuing to maneuver.
Yeah, you saw the officers deploy the spike strip. They threw it out in the middle of the intersection. The suspect was driving at a slow enough speed that he recognized it or saw it and went around it. And then very quickly, the officers have to disengage the spike strip, pulling it out of that area so that pursuing police cars can then follow in the pursuit.
Well, and Bruce, that if you're trying to get your mind get our mind into somebody who is fleeing police, that might have been when he accelerated. He might have known, he saw the spike strip. As soon as he got around it, he accelerated. I don't know if he thinks he can elude capture in many cases. Here we go with another U-turn here. And so he is on Lincoln Boulevard now, heading back in the other direction. It was, no, that was westbound at Ocean. So Lincoln is a north-south road. So I'm going to assume that is heading southbound, maybe. Yeah, I'm twisted around here, heading towards Kensington. Yeah, it is southbound, heading on Lincoln southbound. Bruce, I had a 50-50 shot at that. So apparently I got that part right. So again, you have multiple officers, and they have tried multiple pit maneuvers. And now here we go, hitting that bump there, that culvert. And that's when you start to really worry with all these people around here. If he loses control of the vehicle, you're putting other people at risk when he hits some of those bumps.
Yeah, and he's clearly not obeying any traffic laws. I mean, he's going on the wrong side of the road. He's going in the turn lanes. He's blowing through intersections either at a high rate of speed or a low rate of speed. And there are pedestrians out and about as it is lunchtime now.
Well, I saw a cyclist a moment ago, and that was one of the things that was concerning to me, was because he's using the cyclist lane as well to pass traffic. But that move right there that he just did, Bruce, is one of the things that was bothersome to me or worrisome when they did have the stop and they got out with guns drawn. He has shown a willingness to try to make officers run into him. He will, when they get up close, he will slam on his brakes. Now, that is potentially to keep them at bay so that they can't do a pit maneuver, but it is also the possibility that he's just actually trying to get them to hit him. So now you have a woman pushing a stroller on the shoulder there, on the sidewalk, and this guy going through an intersection with traffic coming opposite of him. So that, again, just like you said, Bruce, this is the concern this time of day, this part of town, a person trying to get away from officers and accelerating away from them so frequently. You've got some real problems for bystanders. Not sure what just happened with our camera there, but we're going to try to get back up over it here in a second. You pick it up. You pick it up very quickly off to the left, Air 7, if you could see it. I believe it was off. We had it. And so now we're going to try to pick it up again. I do believe it wasn't. I think we kind of lost. I thought it was behind you guys. And we're just trying to communicate with them, and we're going to see if we can't figure this out here real quickly together. Again, a stolen pickup pursuit. You see LAPD's helicopter off to the left. They are probably following there. That might be, they might have, we do have him out again. Okay, so here we are. We're back on top of it. We lost him for just a second. Sorry about that. But again, this is a circumstance where he has stopped. Officers have guns drawn. They are right behind him. And now you look at the person backing up and backing away. So this is the terrifying part for commuters in the neighborhood. They see this. You've got guns pointed right at a person who is just simply on a commute. And so now this person opened his door. The suspect in this vehicle opened his door, but shut it again. So now, again, these officers are very much at risk if he were to back up. So we're going to wait and see. So now he is going to pull away again, and officers are now going to have to get back in the vehicle and start driving. So just some tense moments here and there when this person in this stolen truck keeps taunting in the sense that he stops, and they don't know what's about to happen, Bruce. And it just is so concerning for the officers.
Yeah, I mean, he stopped the vehicle. He opened the door. He quickly closed it, as we saw. Then he was outside the window of the vehicle yelling at officers. As they're giving him commands, he was yelling something back. We're not sure. And then he just decided, you know what? I'll take off again. And that's where you see him doing now. And he's in the dangerous part, as you said, Philip, is he's in residential streets.
And now you've seen him go through an intersection. Again, people needing to stop. The person about to make a right turn stopped because they saw a long line of police officers. That's the one thing that is good for this, for the commuters, for people who might be going in a safe place and find themselves all of a sudden at risk. What we've seen from Air 7 is you have 3 or 4 ground officers in their cruisers right behind him. So if you see this coming, you might not know that the white truck is is going to run into the intersection, but you see 4 or 5 vehicles, police officers, you know that something's up. And so that's been the good news, that we've seen commuters kind of stop. It does look like we're now on southbound Lincoln, and that is where this is. So again, now we're in the Venice area. And again, this is where people want to go. They will go to visit. They're tourists. They're in town, and they're wanting to go to Venice. And now you've got crosswalks and intersections. And so many different things. You see the 2 people here on the sidewalk. There's so many different things that could happen that we're really wanting this chase to end. And it does seem as if LAPD is doing everything they can to try to get it to end. They've tried pit maneuvers. They've tried spike strips. But the 2 spike strips that we've seen make an effort at, the suspect was able to get around them, and so was able to move around them. And Bruce, that's what I was talking about a moment ago, whether they would be able to conceal themselves to get that spike strip out there, and it doesn't look like that's been the case. He's been able to spot them and avoid it.
Yeah, and they have to kind of, map out the area he's driving in. Has he hit the same street a few times? Is he in the same general area? So then they can deploy it and have officers pre-deployed in different positions with the spike strip to then deploy the spike strip. But in this pursuit, as opposed to other pursuits we've seen, LAPD is being very aggressive with the pit maneuvers, the spike strip. So it leads me to believe that this is not a pursuit that they're going to let go.
And now he's again into the turn lanes, and an aggressive move there, weaving around people. He's at least on the proper side of the road. Again, we are at Lincoln, and it looks like Noita. So again, you've just got this stolen vehicle who just wasn't wanting to stop, and just trying to pick up on our Google Maps here to kind of see maybe where they might be able to start making some moves. Because, Bruce, in this circumstance, he's not really stayed in Santa Monica. He was in Santa Monica, and now he's over in Venice. And so a lot of times these chases they find themselves repeating the location, and that gives officers an opportunity to really get in front of it. But I haven't noticed this really staying in the same spot. So that presents different kind of challenges, correct?
That's correct. You want to deploy the spike strip, but he's not in the same area. The nice thing on a thing like this is you look at the street. It's a very wide street, multiple lanes, turn lanes, parking lanes, and slow speed. This is another ideal spot to do a pit maneuver.
Oh, no, here we got to look at.
Now you're running into traffic.
Well, and we had a person about to walk into the crosswalk, and the chase was going to go through the crosswalk. And again, this person on the sidewalk has no idea that if this guy were to stop right there, officers have been drawing their weapons. Bruce, I did see some less than lethal weapons. Does that come into an equation here with bystanders, that you might use less than lethal instead of live ammunition, in the sense that you're not wanting to shoot across the vehicle into an area?
Well, you'll always have lethal weaponry,
yes,
being deadly force, backed up by less lethal. And that's a compliance tool they have. The pepper ball rounds, if he doesn't come out of the vehicle, the stun bag shotgun, an R1 round. That's to get compliance from the suspect. If he gets out of the vehicle and doesn't comply, then they can use those things and then come up on him and maybe to use a taser or some sort of grappling or, type of move with multiple officers.
Wow, he is now out and coming right at officers, and then he jumps back in. That was new. Bruce, I mean, how does that change things? I mean, this person that was the ultimate taunt, and he just came right back at them.
Yeah, he came right at them. I was surprised, and they may have deployed some less lethal, but that would have been an ideal spot to use the R1 or the stun bag shotgun to hit him a few times with rounds to disable him to the point where he goes to the ground, and then they'll have to swarm and take him into custody. But that was definitely a very dangerous maneuver because the officers don't know, is he armed?
And again, it's easy to say it looks like they have him on the ground now. They have him on the ground in the center divider, and the good news is it didn't appear as if he was armed. So now, the problem was we were kind of blocked by the trees, but he jumped out and got out of that. So, Bruce, thank you very much. We are coming up to the end of Eyewitness News at 11 a.m., and the timing is such that this person is in custody. The chase is over. The stolen pickup pursuit has now ended, and it does look as if no bystanders were hurt. This suspect has been taken into custody, and you see the less than lethal weapon there put on the ground. So we will have the latest on this for Eyewitness News at 3 o'clock. I'm Philip Palmer. This has been Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. We'll see you later.